We're live on Facebook on Wednesday, and it's a wonder. It's a wonder to me because every day is wonderful, and Wednesdays for me for a long time were less than wonderful. Actually, there were some days I would wonder how I would get through them, and the idea of being grateful for that would have brought on a very derisive and cynical, yeah, right. So, isn't it amazing to figure out that actually, even in the circumstances we find ourselves in at the moment, there are things to be grateful for? How can you be grateful for a virus, Leslie? How can you be grateful for a lockdown? How does that work? I wonder. In the spiritual community and in the well-being community, which is tantamount to the same thing, really, because it's not just about the physical, it's about the mental, emotional and spiritual. Everything is. And what we do in one affects the others. We don't tend to realise that, particularly in Western cultures, because we've been taught to compartmentalise, and some of the compartments we've been taught to just dismiss altogether. But they're all still working. They're all still waiting quietly and patiently for us to click back in, to reconnect, and to find ourselves again. Being grateful for things that happen to us that are really not good things on the face of it is counterintuitive. I know. Having had the interesting situations in my life and understood that I am actually grateful for them was a bit of a revelation for me. You know, getting hit by, or was I hit by? Actually, I hit them. I hit a bus and I hit a car with my body. It was interesting. How to be grateful? Well, I'm still alive. And the other car, well, that was a reason to be grateful, because you see, I got plucked out of there by the scruff of the neck. So hard and so fast, I left my elastic-sided booties in the middle of the road, and I was to be found way on the other side on the pavement. What should have happened was I should have been, as would normally happen in a road traffic accident, it should have hit me at the bumper area, round about the legs and the knees. I should have been taken up and either hit the windscreen or gone over the back of the car. I know this because I went a couple of years afterwards to a police seminar for advanced driving tests and things, because my sister was doing her advanced driving test. And they showed an accident, and somebody in front of me said, "Oh, nobody could survive that." And I tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Actually, you can." And it was then I realised just how amazing what had happened to me actually was. And it was magical, really, it was. It was an intervention. I really felt that hand on the back of my neck getting a hold of my collar and yanking me out of there. However, I wasn't going to get away scot-free. I'm still bearing the mark, because they dropped me just a little bit above the pavement and I nutted the pavement, gave it a Glasgow kiss, which is why you can just see there's a little dent. That was the result. And it was amazing. Yeah, time just went amazingly woolly, because I was definitely apart from what was going on. Part of me was watching what was going on to the body. Part of me was aware that there were things going on, and suddenly, bang, I was back in there. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, let's have a body check. Fingers are still working, toes are still wiggling. ankles are still moving round and round. Now, do the knees bend, and do they bend in the right direction? Because having been a vet nurse, I've seen what happens to animals when they get hit by cars. And having had already one situation where I got hit by a car and understood only after a dog actually jumped on my arm that my elbow was fractured, I realised that things in the heat of the moment can be hidden. So I'm doing that, but while I'm doing that, now this is at midnight, and when this happened, there was just me and the car and the guy and the girl in the car who were aware of this. But suddenly, it was like the world had been invited to a show. They were coming from everywhere, and people were saying to me, "Are you all right? Are you all right?" And I'm like, "Give me a minute. I'm just trying to figure that one out." And then, of course, my luck, slightly grateful for it, yes, definitely, a bus full of off-duty policemen came by. Yes, a bus full. But what they did was interesting, because they went into the middle of the road and they took my shoes from the middle of the road and brought them to me. I thought, oh, that's where they went. That's why my feet's cold. And you know what I said to the ambulance driver when he turned up? Something my mother had always taught me. I said, "I'm so glad I put on clean knickers tonight." I was grateful for the fact that I'd actually done what my mother had told me, because her warning had come to pass. Now, did I manifest that? What happened there? Years later, I went by accident. Is it ever an accident when it comes to the universe and spiritual stuff? I ended up in a spiritual church, a spiritualism church. And I was there with someone else who had decided to take me there. And I had no inclination, there was no idea that anything was going to happen. And then the woman on the platform said, you, I'm talking to you. The blonde woman, I was blonde then. And I'm looking behind me. Sorry, what? No, you, the blonde woman. I have a queue of people wanting to talk to you. And I was like, oh. Why? Well, afterwards, I went to talk to her. And I told her about this accident. And I told her my theory, that I thought that someone had become a guardian for me and had yanked me out of there. And she looked me straight in the eye and she said, "Yes, he did." I thought, wow, I am so grateful for that. Because I understood at that point in time that things happen that are miraculous in ways. And sometimes we just put them down to that interesting word I don't like called coincidence. I mean, come on. Have you never wondered about the idea of coincidence? Co-incidence. Two incidents happening at the same time that would never normally happen together. And that's a just. It's another word I'm kind of not keen on at the moment. But I'm grateful for the word serendipity. And I'm grateful for all the scrapes and scratches and the elephant who kicked me down a moat because I wasn't paying attention to her. Yes, you can be so enthralled in watching a lovely bum in a moat. Maybe too much information, huh? That you miss an elephant. But I'm still grateful for it. Because I learned lessons. Now, what can you be grateful about? What can we be grateful about when it comes to this microscopic terrorist that we have with its vice-like grip on our lives? Well, it's stopped the world a little bit, hasn't it? It's allowed things to come back into focus. We're focusing more on our families. We're focusing more on how we do things, when we go out, why we go out. And this is what I wonder now. How we can actually reconnect to the nature around us, even when we live in apartments, flats, buildings where there are no gardens. You can have a plant in your living room. You can have a dog or a cat. You can look out the window. When you're going to the supermarket, or you're going to the doctors, or you're going to anywhere that you're allowed to go while we're in lockdown. And as you're going there, instead of worrying and thinking about what has to happen and how many people are going to be there and the queues that are going to be there, you can think to yourself, the air is very fresh. I can hear birds singing in the morning. That makes me feel good. I might buy some birdseed and feed some birds in the park, because I'm allowed to go there for 10 minutes or so. I know I'm going to have to make time for a certain amount of people, so I'm going to actively choose to see people on days instead of just thinking, oh well, I'll see them when I see them. That's something to be grateful for. So think beyond the immediate what's happening to me and think of how is this an advantage to me. Even when we're ill, occasionally, it's a case of why me? At the moment, I don't think we can afford to say why me. Why not me? This is something that we may be looking at in entirely a different way in a couple of months' time. Because at one point the lockdown fatigue is going to be really on a roll when we're totally fed up of being stuck in the house. However, we have wonderful minds. We don't use them enough. So we could actually look at ways in which to reconnect to ourselves, understand our own well-being can be looked after. Particularly now, we have time to exercise in the house. We can get the kids involved. That will keep them happy and it will also tire them out. Aren't you just grateful for people who do that? Like the guy on YouTube, maybe? He's a little bit too fast for me, but there are other things that you can do. Yoga. That takes a meditative state. And it's amazing because you're not really doing very much, but actually you can lose weight with it. So start off with little things. I wonder if you can think of 3 little things that you're grateful for and 3 little things that you'll look forward to tomorrow. And I wonder how that might change your mind about what's going on in your life right now. Because change happens one step at a time, one person at a time, one event at a time. And we can all be grateful for the fact that we can do that as long as we put our minds to it. And it doesn't matter when we start, it's the starting that counts. So I'm grateful and thank you for listening to me wittering every day. And in gratitude, I say, Tash Dili, and I will see you tomorrow.